Howdy again, Mr. Pete here. It's the middle of December 2025. We have 6 inches of snow outside and it's about 15 degrees, so it's a perfect day for me to be down in this nice warm shop to do a test on the VEVOR sander grinder. And yes, this was donated for the good of the cause by VEVOR. I did not buy it. I will try to be impartial in this review of this nice little machine. Now, I realize that most people do not like unboxing, so I will not bore you with that. I'll get it out of the box, laid out here on the bench so I can assemble it, and then we'll give it a good test. Remember, it uses a 1-inch by 30-inch belt, and 3 belts are included in the kit. Okay, all the pieces are laid out on the table. Each and every part was enclosed in a plastic bag, which I've already removed. Extremely well packed in styrofoam and arrived in perfect condition. And it came with a set of directions, probably written in, that language that I often talk about. But the little motor here, not a real large motor, is going to be powered here by a VFD. So that's an interesting feature. Now this is about $199 if you buy it, but we have infinite variable speed here, and the machine can be used in both the horizontal and the vertical position. And we've got a platen here, a flat platen with 2 rollers with bearings, and this can be removed, and this friction type wheel or contouring wheel installed. So let me get the directions out and get some of the preliminary assembly done. I'm not going to show a whole lot of that because I'm really more interested in showing you what it can do than how it's put together. And this is sometimes used by knife makers, probably not the big time knife makers that do heavy work, but for you hobbyists it probably would be sufficient. I'm more interested in it to set on the bench, used for deburring and sharpening tools, and I hope that we can sharpen lathe tools and even drill bits on it, because I prefer sanders over grinders, as you might well have known already. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Plenty of warning tags here, and it appears it's quite heavy. Quite heavy. They suggest putting it in the vertical position, and there are 2 cap screws, and of course they're all metric. They did supply a wrench, but I prefer this type. There's a little stainless steel guard that goes right above this wheel, and I had to loosen these 2 screws, which were incredibly tight, so I'll just snug them down. No need to have it that tight. They must have used an impact driver at the factory. Now they call this a flat grinding wheel. I do not understand the terminology. It has its own bearing, and this is a solid piece of steel here, so it feels very robust. I would have expected they would have used tubing, but it simply goes into this rectangular slot and can be tightened with this in and out, because we do not presently know what position we want it in. I might as well show you this now, but if you want to take the wheel off and put the flat platen on, just turn it around and remove this screw, loosen up the little lever there, and this will pull right out so we can install this assembly. And this is probably the one that I will be the most interested in, and it'll go in like that, of course, with the screw. Now I call these work rests or work tables. They call them work benches. So that's the large workbench. I think they're stainless, and the small. And why don't they get an American who lives in New York to write the manuals or proofread them? I do not know. They're not real bad. It's just that their wording is so crazy. All right, in order to put the workbench on, actually, to me, this is a workbench. In China, this is a workbench. So that'll go on like that, and it's adjustable. There's a slot right here, and there's a slot here that allows the entire bar here to be moved in and out. And I'm sorry, but here in America, we use a washer right here, here, and here. But they didn't bother. I'll have to dig some out later on. This is going real fast. So now we take the cable from the motor, and it will be installed right here on the side, and then there's a little dust cover because this is going to get full of swarf and dust. I hope that this is totally enclosed. Actually, it would be better attached to the wall. There is a screw, but there's also rubber feet for it to set next to the grinder. Okay, it's plugged into 110 volt, and you know, there's a nice long cord, longer than I usually expect to find on a product like this. But in order to use it, we turn the main rocker switch on, and then I was looking through the directions, and they said make sure you turn this knob to the lowest speed before you hit the stop, or the stop and start. Now I got to read up on what all of this means, but this thing is totally silent. I cannot hear it at all. Of course my hearing's bad, but I still can't hear it. And apparently that's 200 RPM. That's not going to film very well. Wow, that really cranks out. We're at that's 5,000 RPM. Really no vibration to speak of. But of course there will be when we put the belt on. So I'm going to back that down, and let's talk about safety now. Not for children. Think about what you're doing. Keep your hands away from the grinding belt, because these belts, if you run your fingers into the side of them, you're just going to trim your nails if you do from the front, but you can get a very serious cut from the side of the belt, and 3 belts were included, and they are directional, which I'm not sure I understand that, but because some belts are not. But if you run it in reverse, you might have to reverse the belt, so keep that in mind. These are a very common belt, 30-inch. I think you can buy them almost any place, but make sure you buy them for metalworking, not woodworking. And remember, this is a variable frequency drive, and watch when I push the stop button. It stops real quick, almost like it has a brake. I like that. Now there's 2 adjustments that can be made when you're installing the belt. One here, loosen up this lever, and this can be moved in and out. I'm going to move it all the way in to get the belt on, and then the upper idler here is spring loaded, as you can see. So now I can work the belt on. Turn the power off when you do that. Just a word of caution here. I believe that we need to put the controller panel on the other side, because should you stretch this out and be careless, and run the cords into the belt here, and there's more than one wire in here, it's going to cause you a lot of aggravation. So I'm going to put the controller over on the other side, and then the cords are safe. Okay, I'm in the process of tracking the belt. I'm having a little difficulty, but notice the arrow here, because it's going to rotate in that direction. That's important. Let me turn it on now to about 400 RPM and fuss around a little bit with the tracking, which is this black knob right here. But what I've found over the years with almost all belt sanders that I have, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 wheels, it's very difficult to get the belt centered on all 4 wheels as you track it. Okay, I'm on 200 RPM. Remember, RPM isn't the same as surface feet per minute. So when we make our adjustment over here, we're adjusting the speed of the motor, the main shaft. You can see I'm not quite on the wheel there. I'm pretty much or up there, so I better have a little faster speed. I'm at about 450. And it's kind of slow to react, but can you see it move over? So you do not need very much adjustment here. Just a 1/8 of a turn or less. And you will have to practice with that. And sometimes belts drift a little bit as you're grinding and engaging your work into the belts. So I'm just going to have to find a happy medium here. You can see I'm about in the center of this wheel and the lower wheel. Actually, it's quite good on all of the wheels right now. Again, I caution you, be very careful. Keep your fingers out of there. No rags or loose items laying around on the bench. So I'm at 460 RPM. Let me crank it up, see what it's like. There's 1500 RPM, and this did move a little on me, so I probably will have to make a little tweak on it. Runs pretty quiet, but I hear a little thumping from a belt, and that's very typical in a... Can you read that? Probably not. It flickers. It's at 1500 RPM right now. All right, turn it on. And watch how quickly it stops when I hit the stop button. That's nice. No crazy coasting or dangers after you walk away from the machine. I particularly like this kind of machine for squaring up the end of my work or deburring, that type of operation. I'm going to sharpen a drill real quickly. I'm not trying to show you how to grind drills. I've done that 100 times. But is it feasible to do it on this little sander grinder? Now I need lots of light. And that changes the whole picture here. And I'm at 2000 RPM. Yeah, that's going to work just great for grinding drills if you don't have a VEVOR drill grinder. And I'm very interested in how well it works to grind lathe tools. Now this is soft steel. I don't happen to have any high-speed steel, but I'm just going to grind real quickly a right-hand turning tool, and maybe not all the way, but I just want to see how it works. I'm resting my knuckles on the, as they would call it, tool table. And I got a water pot. Oh, that worked real nice. So I got the shape. I'm not going to put the rake angles on because you get the point. It did work quite well. It is fiddly here with the tracking. I track it one way and it kind of drifts off, and then the other way. I can't seem to find the sweet spot. I really need to practice and work off camera with that. Another thing I do not like, when I'm pressing real hard as I grind, there's not enough weight here to keep the machine from getting pushed. So it either has to be screwed down, or there are 4 holes that would allow a fella to put some rubber feet on there. Maybe they included them and I didn't see them yet. But I think you understand what I mean. Or it needs to be clamped, depending on how hard you're pushing up against it. All right, I will be using this 90% of the time in this configuration, but I'm going to go ahead and flip it over and show you how that's done, because that may be useful to other people that are want to buy one of these. Now, if you are interested in one of these, there's a link in the description and a discount code, so check that out. To use the machine in the horizontal position, as mentioned before, loosen these 2 screws, which I've already loosened. And then, of course, you'd want to retighten them, and that can be accessed now from this side. And then, the little work table, as they call it, needs to be taken off, and we'll put the other work table on. So off this comes. Set it off to the side. Don't lose these extra parts. Maybe even mark them with a paint markers if you have them in a drawer someplace. And then this one will go on and be tightened down. Now I can't show you all the different ways in which a fella can use this because it's up to your imagination, but if I wanted to clean up this edge right here on this piece of aluminum, turn it on, and can you see the whole machine moving on me? That's what I was talking about. So it needs to be clamped down. But that's going to work pretty nice. Now that you've seen it in operation with the regular flat platen, I'll put the round grinding wheel, as they call it, on. And in order to do that, I'll take the belt off again and remove this screw. That will allow this whole assembly to come off and this threaded shaft here to be fastened again with this screw, and we need washers. So the screw is tightened, and now I have to move the entire rod right here out, maybe putting a little tension on that, tightening it down, and then the final tensioning is done, of course, up here. Alrighty, that was rather easy, but it still took 2 or 3 minutes, so you may be hesitant about changing the different configurations here, depending on how much time you have, but you can use or install the work table here if you want, but in general I would think what we're doing here is grinding something where we want the radius, or we want to work in here in what I might call the sweet spot. Sometimes you like that flexing. It's up to you and what you are doing. So as you can see, I'm able to tension it. Let's turn it on now and see how well it tracks. It's tracking real nice on the big wheel. A little bit off here, but that's just an idler, so maybe we do not care. I'm at 1,000 RPM right now. Okay, here's a piece of aluminum, and if you want to work here right on the contact wheel, you can. But I like the idea here of the sweet spot if I have something round where, I know my hand's in the way, but something like that. But remember, without a tool rest, the work wants to get thrown. Now, this machine is capable of running in reverse, but you'll have to reverse the belt, as I told you before, and if you do, I'm not going to sharpen this knife because it's already sharpened, but sometimes you want it to run in the other direction when you're sharpening. Although you could also do it like this. So this will really be handy for sharpening. Again, a big precaution: you must always wear safety glasses or goggles or a face shield when using any machine tool, especially grinders and sanders. There's an entire page devoted to safety, but of course it's written in Chinglish. Even here at the top, precaution on using belt grinder sander, but be sure and read through those. Hopefully you can decipher them. There's also a parts list in here. Now, how good VEVOR is in regards to customer service and getting repair parts, I do not know. I've heard some people say that they have had trouble. Well, that concludes the video, as short as I could make it, on the VEVOR sander grinder. Uses a 1" by 30" belt. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you're interested in one of these, again, I'll tell you that there is a link in the description box below and a discount code, and maybe there's time for you to get one before Christmas, although I doubt that it can be delivered that fast. Thank you for watching. Mr. Pete saying so long for now and see you next time. And thank you, VEVOR, for sending this to me.